What a banger video we've got lined up here. In this video, I'm going to be going through Cadence and breaking down their marketing strategy and how they've managed to build such an incredible business in such a short space of time. We posted this on LinkedIn. It did very well. It picked up a bit of noise, even from people at Cadence themselves. Ross commented, I'd love to take credit for this resource. This was Chris Briscoe, a partner of mine, and he has absolutely smashed it. And all I'm going to do today is help break it down for you guys and give you an opportunity to learn from the best and implement some of this so that you can build your own strategy and build a very successful business yourselves. So Cadence, what is it? What do they sell? I mean, first of all, they sell an electrolyte drink, right? And it's in can format, which I think is important. So they're in an industry where there is a lot of products that sell to a similar audience. And if I was to get, let's say, 10 of the biggest competitors that are out there right now, they pretty much are all sachets and they almost look exactly the same other than the branding. In terms of the messaging, it's the same. In terms of what they offer, it's the same. Straight away, in can format, we have made a bit of a difference, or Cadence have made a difference in terms of the positioning. Now, both brand owners, Ross and George, they're both outwardly very into fitness, into health, and so this is a relevant product, right? They don't have a baby product and have no babies, for example. It's relevant to them, and I think that's important. If you're going to do a business, create something that represents you, where you are actually the target customer, so that you know exactly what is going to resonate with that person and you can already speak their language. Now, a bit of history into Ross and George. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because you can do your own research, and of course you can download this by clicking on the link in the description. But they are both very successful in their own right. Ross has had a very successful business called Daring. He sold it at a very high level, and that experience has given him what he needs to do some of this. Same with George. Most people recognize the brand Represent. They managed to scale to incredible levels without outside investment, which is massive. So we're not talking about first business founders here, which I think is important, but don't let that be an excuse if you are a first-time founder. Ultimately, we can learn from people like Ross and George, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. So I'm not going to go too deep into the background. Let's actually start to talk about the brand a little bit. So in terms of building the brand, we can see here a few points. I mean, 500 milligrams of sodium per can. It's very clear. It's a round number. Great. In terms of the positioning, they have done very well to make this a very straightforward offering. They're not trying to describe it with a million words. It is a can. It has the electrolytes that you need in it, and that gives you better performance. And it's 0 calories, 0 sugar. Now, they've spent the time, 18 months of development, to make sure that they have a superior product. And I tell this to founders all of the time. The best marketing strategy you can physically have is to make sure that you have the best product in the market. Because what's going to happen if you have a superior product is one person is going to try that product. You pay to acquire them usually. Now you have a customer for life. If your product solves their problem, they will keep coming back and ordering from you again and again and again. So it is worth it to make sure you have a product that actually solves people's problems. Otherwise, the reverse of that is true. And every time you pay to get a customer, it just ends there. And it's not very profitable. And it's not a good foundation for you to build a brand, right? We're not just selling products, we're trying to build a brand. There is a secondary benefit as well to having an amazing product that is superior to everything else in the market, which is the fact that one person turns into two, turns into three, and it snowballs because they will tell their friends who are likely interested in the same things, and all of a sudden you've got a group of people that are all drinking Cadence, and that is exactly what you want. And I'm sure the founders, when they made the product, they had this in mind, which is why they spent so much time and money to make sure that they actually have something that is different and better than what else is out there in the market. So backed by the two founders, we've gone through obviously the credibility that they have. They both have an audience as well. It's also relevant, which I think is where a lot of people go wrong, is they just try and follow somebody else's trends. Think about the problems that you can solve for yourself and now solve it for similar people to you. All of a sudden you have a brand that's very, very congruent. Now, valuation, obviously we don't know, it's a bit of a guess, but based on Label Capital investing 3 to 6 million for a 10 to 20% stake, I think it's fairly safe to assume it's within this region, 25 to 40 mil. And that's in a very, very short period of time, which is unbelievably impressive. And for them, it's a good investment because ultimately it's a category that is booming. Okay, it's growing in demand, which is important, right? You want to make sure that your product actually is something that people want, and that is a growing audience. The brand is premium, it's minimalist, it's athlete focused, it's not just functional. You know, we don't want to just sell through talking about the product from start to finish. It doesn't really attract the best people. It doesn't build a brand. By them making sure that they're minimalist and premium, you know, even these two words alone, that reminds me of Apple. Now, I've got an iPhone. I imagine most people watching this video have an iPhone. Somebody just tried to call me. That's unfortunate, but we'll keep it rolling. We all have iPhones, and it's not actually because it has the best camera, because it probably doesn't. It probably doesn't have the best battery life, but they have a very premium and minimalist brand. And so I will probably buy the new iPhone when it comes out, even though actually it's not probably going to be that different in terms of features and functionalities. But who cares? They've got a brand. So that's very, very important. Now, in terms of brand philosophy and founder's perspective, just to read some of this out, they frame nutrition as functional fuel, not indulgence, which I think is important, especially when we're talking about sodium, which ultimately is salt, and it has a negative connotation. We want to make sure that we flip that, and I think the guys are very conscious of doing that. They're building brand confidence through execution and not just storytelling. I think throughout this, you're going to notice a common theme, which is they are doing and building the way that they want to build a brand, instead of just literally seeing what else is trending and copying them and trying to make it 1% better. But the more unique you are and the more authentic you are, it's going to resonate with other people. You're going to build a brand like nobody else is able to build a brand. They're focused on cross-industry inspiration to avoid CPG groupthink. Again, kind of just what we're talking about. They're not just following the herd. They're not sheep following the herd, but they're doing their own thing. And also, they are reflecting on where did we settle today. They have a common theme that keeps coming up over and over again. And I think that's important. Even their brand voice is very clear. You know, it's almost like we know what this brand would think about a certain topic because we know them to have their own personality. They're educational. They're not preachy. They have high conviction without hype. Confidence comes across in everything that they do. They're culture-led over commerce-led. It's not just sell, but instead they are attracting a very specific type of person through all of the things that they're doing, and they're attracting, they're pulling, they're not pushing. Maybe that way around. You get what I'm trying to say? They're not trying to force people to become a customer. Not saying buy this today, first-time customers get 50% off, and we're the cheapest, we're the most convenient. No, it's like, we're athletes. We think this is important. This is fuel for the body. If you also are into the same things, you be attracted to what we're doing here. And they've got real world ritual over digital dopamine. It's all like, all of this is lifestyle. This is all real. We don't have crazy AI graphics that are trying to funnel hack somebody or attention hack and get somebody to buy on impulse. So just to summarize some of these things, from day one, they've had a full team stack. Okay, so it's not a scrappy hustler type of setup. They've done everything with purpose. Yes, they have leverage from money that they can use from their other brands, but still, we can learn from this, right? It's a very classy launch. They've had a classy opening start to the journey of this business. Lessons from Represent, obviously, and Daring, they've managed to bring through, and they've avoided certain hardships, which ultimately sometimes you have to just learn the hard way. They've been adaptability in the product development. So they've changed a lot. They've adjusted the salt levels. They've iterated constantly. They've changed the format. You know, ultimately, if we know what the outcome is and we're outcome orientated, the actual methodology can change. And the brands that do the best, and we say this to every brand that comes to work with us, we say what makes a good partnership, number one, is making sure that we're flexible and we're agile and open to pivoting if needed. You know, if we find there's a better way of doing it, let's not be stubborn with our hypothesis, and let's actually treat it as a hypothesis, which means it can be improved. It's tested. We don't know the outcome. Once we test, we get more data. We pivot and we make sure that we lean into those learnings. And that's how you make sure you have the best product and the best marketing strategy. Morning First Ritual, they push this in everything that they do. They try and I imagine, just reading between the lines, I'm going to imagine that this helps in some roundabout way with retention, right? If they can convince people to make this part of their routine, as opposed to something that you just do after your marathon, for example, you have it once, you never need to use the product again, then ultimately it's going to help with sales. It's going to help with building a community. It's going to help create a bit of a cult following because people use it again and again. Like the iPhone example, you know, everything that we use more often, we have it ingrained into our minds, and those are the brands that we remember. If you drink a lot of Coca-Cola, when I say brand, you're probably going to think of Coke. So going into a few other things, brand theology, I'm not going to go through this in too much detail. It's more of, you know, who they are and who they represent, and you can go through that yourselves when you download this. Strategic differentiators, they have no plan B mentality. It's very all or nothing. You can see this from the 4 a.m. laptop sessions, the YouTube videos, the content that they post. They don't half-ass anything, and they're trying to attract people that have that same level of thinking, and that ultimately it's their USP, right? They're not selling to mothers, or they're not trying to sell to mothers that have athlete children and speak to the mother. Like they're speaking to these athletes themselves, a slightly older demographic, probably 25 to 35, if I had to guess, older than obviously the kids in that example. So yeah, if I just move that, there we go. Okay, design first hydration. They've got market research as well. They've made something that is very different. Again, thinking probably from first principles. Ultimately, it's a can. It's very simple. The colors are very different. Most of the electrolyte drinks that we've seen, they're either blue, purple, pink, yellow. They look like sweets. What they've done is they made it like very, very different, actually. Fashion first thinking applied to performance nutrition. Obviously, their background, especially George's background in represent and making things look good, I'm sure has been useful here. They're built like a startup, but they're running on enterprise-grade infrastructure. You have to use your unfair competitive advantage. They have an unfair competitive advantage because this is not their first rodeo, right? And so they can use some of their resources to help them. Right, let's go into some strategy and make this as exciting as it possibly can be. So, a few things. This is the Shopify side, okay? So they're using a Shopify website. They're an e-commerce brand, and we'll go in and out of some things that they're doing well and a little bit differently to other brands. So looking at their website, they don't just sell hydration. It sells control. It sells what this product gives you, not what it is. They don't sell water, for example, by saying this is two hydrogen molecules bonded with an oxygen molecule. No, you sell what it gives you, the benefit, who it is that you become as a result of being a customer of ours. It's made for athletes who treat training like work. Okay, they're very serious. It's not fluffy words. If we look at this is what we call above the fold. So it's what I see on the website before I even scroll down. It's the most important part of the website because at this stage, somebody makes a split-second decision as to whether they want to stay or as to whether they want to leave. And we can see straight above the fold, we have clear header navigation, first of all. We've got a CTA, shop all products, right there. And so you don't have to spend time figuring out how to buy it. If you know you want to buy it, click shop all products and you're good to go. It's very sales-focused. It's conversion-focused. This is not just an educational page. It's shop, view product. And then we get into some more sciencey stuff if at that stage you haven't yet converted. So I think that's important. Ultimately, we're a business. We want to sell products at the end of the day. Is something that you have to remember. Going into some more stuff. So it's very clear they have a single hero product range. A lot of brands, especially first-time founders, they think I scale by adding more products. And I've had this conversation so many times. To get more sales, you find the one product that people are dying out for, and you sell them that product. You don't just keep adding and adding and adding. And if anything, it takes away from your ability to get sales. Because if I see that you sell food, drink, clothes, supplements, I just think unless you're Amazon, none of these are probably that good because you don't specialize in anything. But if you focus on the one product and you share the science around it, all of a sudden we are leading in this category. They've got the 4 product categories shown immediately, very easy navigation, which is good. Something else to pick up on is they show the product in different formats. This is what a lot of health and wellness brands specifically, actually, they don't do a good enough job of showing you what the product looks like before you consume the product. A company that does this very well is AG1. If you go to their website, before you even buy or pay them anything, you've seen it in you've seen the product in powder form, you've seen it with water, you've seen it with somebody drinking it, you've seen the raw ingredients. They show you everything about what it's like to have that experience before you do, and it leaves nothing to the imagination because people want to be certain before they buy. If you are in an uncertain state, that is not profitable. People that are uncertain do not buy. So we want 0 questions. For example, with this fuel bar, I know it's going to sound quite ridiculous, but me even just seeing this, I already in my mind have a feel for what it tastes like. Whereas if they just showed me the wrapper and the numbers on it and like the nutritional information, I don't know whether I think I'm going to like it. This looks like something that I would like. That kind of looks refreshing. And I think that's very, very important. Now, in terms of how they bulk sell, this is important because ultimately the SKU isn't a massively expensive SKU. And if we're going to pay to get somebody to buy from us, we want them to spend as much as physically possible so that we make that as profitable as we can on the front end. And so how can we do that when we don't have a shit ton of SKUs? We do that through bulk discounts and getting people to buy more or subscribe. Now, what Cadence have done is they've gone down the direction of how do we get people to buy more. Now, this isn't the usual buy 1 at this price, buy 3 at this price, and buy 6 at that price. This is very much in line with their branding. Even the way that they have named these different offers is very, very intentional and very clever. For example, here we've got Recover, which is going to give you 30. They've got Race 500, which also is going to give you 30 with something else. They've got, like, each product here has got a different name, and you can basically be pulled into this based on what it is that it does for you. So if you are somebody that is racing, you're probably going to go for that one. If you are somebody that is looking to prioritize recovering, you're probably going to go for this one, as opposed to that decision being made off of how much money you save, which they don't even include the price in this little section here. So that speaks to that in even more detail. Now they've got building blocks that help build trust. Again, this is all very relevant. Recovery, cognitive function, physical performance. Those are the three pillars, so to speak, i.e. reasons why you should buy this product in a split-second sort of reading decision material here that you can read and make a decision on. They're pushing core sachets, not variety or merch, right? People build a brand, sometimes they get carried away. They think everybody wants a t-shirt with their logo on it. Yes, in some cases they do, but ultimately let's solve the problem first and let's sell the merch second. And then they've got some science, which ultimately just helps to make sure that they are perceived as an authority. If we've got a marathon recovery guide that has been made by people that run marathons day in and day out, well, if somebody is looking to buy this product and these two are associated in their head together, the product and also the fact that they have expertise in a marathon. If I'm doing my first marathon, which I will be next April, by the way, I'm probably going to be buying all of this stuff. It feels very specific and tailored to me as somebody that is about to run a marathon. If I am a bodybuilder and I want to get as big as I physically can, this isn't a brand that is actually calling my name. This isn't a brand that feels like it was made for me. I probably won't get it, but that's good, right? You want to actually have a core audience. You want to mean something to a group of people and not try and mean very little to everybody, because ultimately the more people resonate with you, the more likely they are to be a buyer. And I think Cadence do this very, very well. They are very good at being specific and speaking a specific message to a very specific person. Specificity is persuasive. Don't try and have a broad message and sell to anybody and everybody, because really, again, unless you're Amazon, it's probably not going to work for you. Okay, LinkedIn. I'm not going to spend too much time on LinkedIn purely because I don't want to make this an hour-long video. And I think LinkedIn helps as a secondary thing, but I wouldn't say it's what's growing the brand. It's good for people like me who are really going deeper on this. It's good for their very passionate core group of fans and customers, but it's not going to be a front-end massive revenue driver, but it is also worth going through. So on LinkedIn, they're not trying to build hype. It's not them trying to get, 10 million followers. It's them really speaking deeper to their core group of people that follow them. You can see here, Ross has got 9K or almost 10K followers, and they're posting very, very specific content. It's not hawky. It's not about dopamine and trying to hack people's attention. It's about going deeper and sharing behind the scenes of the brand and how it's run and how the founders think, so that you can see if you align with their values. What Ross does very well is he's very present, I would say. If something's happening in the business, he's going to talk about it. If something's happening generally within the industry that is worth commenting on, and it is a topic that aligns with Cadence and what their audiences like to be interested in, he will comment on it. And you can see, look, they're talking about just 11 months in, we launched Cadence with a single SKU. Very, very relevant, right? We're not waiting. They're not waiting here to get to the very end of the journey and then reflect back. They are building in public, which I think is huge. And it's something that we're now trying to do. I recommend every single brand does that, because ultimately people can't copy your journey and your experience. That in itself is a unique competitive advantage. So Ross is used to signal credibility. I think he does a very good job of that. If you guys are businesses like watching this and you have your own brand, I would honestly just take 30 minutes and go through Ross's LinkedIn post and see how it's attracting people and getting people to become deep fans of the product. He's not just talking about AI here because everybody else is talking about AI, or work-life balance, these very trending topics. It's all very much in line with their type of person, what that person will be interested in, which here we can see a Strava morning run. Exactly. This is very on brand. It's very topical for them. They're not worried about other people. They're just worried and obsessed about their core customer, which is honestly, it's the one message I would leave you with. If you take anything away from this video, know your customer and make everything specifically speaking to that person. Okay. And on their business page, they've got 5K followers. They use it as like a middle and bottom of funnel. People who already know, like, and recognize them and trust them are likely to be engaging with this sort of stuff. If you've never heard of them before, you're probably not on their LinkedIn 5 minutes later. So they know who they're speaking to. They're not trying to sell Cadence is this and it does that. It's here's a behind the scenes sort of thing. Okay, now getting onto YouTube. This is where they go really deep. Okay, so we don't have they don't have major amounts of following here, but the videos that they do have, I guarantee a high percentage of these people have engaged with the brand and have actually purchased from them. It's where you go deeper. It's where you build brand. It's where you create a moat around the business. Nobody else, no other electrolyte company can copy this. It's impossible because they don't have the same journey. So I'm a big fan of doing anything that is unique that nobody else can do. If you've got a story, tell it. If you've got a background in something and it's relevant to your product, share it. You know, you want to make sure that you are using your competitive advantage in the most unfair way as physically possible. Very, very important. Now, I think in terms of like looking at the structure of their YouTube videos, have a look at it in your own time. Actually watch some of the videos. You're going to get a lot more from it than me just talking over some of it right now. What I would say is they do very well to make sure the videos are going to be watched end to end. If you are the type of person that is admiring this type of lifestyle, you are going to watch this like young women in the UK watch Molly May's makeup tutorial videos or whatever she posts. I don't know, but you get my point, right? They're attracting people that are going to grow with the brand. This brand is going to grow, and so is their following. And the people 6 months from now, a year, 2 years, 5 years from now that are watching and have watched for a long time, they're going to be diehard fans, and they're going to preach about this to everybody, and they're more likely to be advocates that create more demand because they tell everybody to become a customer. And they'll have been built up with this brand, and they'll feel connected in a very deep psychological way. Now, let's get on to top of funnel acquisition. Meta, this quite clearly is where most of the effort is being spent, and probably money as well in terms of budget, on getting people who have never heard of the brand to become paying customers. And this is very much top of funnel. It's very, very clean. One thing I'd say about their user-generated content is they are not trying to be too salesy. Even with the people that don't know who they are still being conscious to attract instead of convince. They don't want to persuade people, they want to attract. And I think that's very, very important. Top of funnel ads are very, very clean. All of the people that are in the ads are also very specific to their target audience, which is something that we found. If we're selling to younger people, we want younger people to be in the video. If we're selling to older people, we want older people to be in the video. If we have a product that's selling to athletes, we want athletic people to be in the video. Very, very simple, but who you display will attract that same type of person. Think about it on a very granular level. I'm not just talking about are they male or female, do they have this interest? We go as deep as to really understand, okay, we have this athlete, let's say, as our core group. Let's have a 25-year-old athlete, 35, 45, 55, 65, and let's see what the numbers say. Let's have Black, White, Asian. Let's go really deep. Let's get as many conclusions as we physically can get, and I think that's really important. Go onto their ad library, and if you don't know how to do that, just go onto, I don't even know what it's called. It's like adlibrary.meta.com or something like that. Just Google ad library and you'll find it, and then type in use Cadence, and you'll be able to have a look at all of their front-end ads. Now, looking at some of these notes, probably won't read them all, but they make sure that the ads are formatted, right? So if somebody is on social media and they're watching a video, let's say it's a story, the iPhone is like this. It's not like this, right? What people do, the biggest red flag I ever see on like advertising on the front end is people will film an ad like that. Why would you do that if somebody is on their phone like this? So we want to take up as much of this screen as possible. We call it real estate, right? So we want to take up as much of that screen so that we can get in front of somebody, capture their attention, and demand that they watch this video. If you film it like that, when they're watching it on their phone like this, it's only going to be a small little horizontal slit like that. And so you want to make sure that your ads are optimized, and they have done that. So most of their videos, as you'll see, they are basically the same format as an iPhone. Very, very important. Copy format, so this is very clear. They've obviously tested this and they've seen what works for them. They've got a 2 to 4 line structure. It's not too long, it's not too short. They have hook, benefit, proof, social proof usually, and call to action. They have a clear product message, which is 0 sugar, 0 calories. That is pretty much what appears in almost all of the ads. The SKU benefits are kept separate by ad type. I imagine, just from our experience, they are probably in a period of testing right now. And so the best way to test what message gets the most amount of customers for the lowest amount of money is to have pretty much the same ad. Everything's the same, could even have the same person in the ad. But instead of them talking about this benefit, they talk about that benefit. And what we're very quickly going to learn is when we talk about this, we get way more people become customers and we spend less. Great, that's our route to scaling. Let's use that core message front and center of all of our ads. So I imagine that's what's going on. And yeah, top performing hooks, 3 reasons why I drink Cadence, a point of view style, daily routine clips, before and after Cadence hydration. I am sure this has been refined through lots of testing. I would be very surprised if this is a coincidence. I imagine they've tried so many different variations of content styles, and this is what works the best. This is an educated guess in terms of top funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel, and how they're approaching it, because we can't really see on the front end who sees what ad. But have a look at some of this stuff, brand voice, social proof, audience psychology, and really understanding who they're speaking to, and framing the offer in a very strong but not gimmicky way. These are all foundations of what makes a very, very solid front end marketing strategy. Very, very important. Again, they sell through identity, attracting their type of person, being specific, focusing on the lifestyle, instead of begging people to become customers, which I see a lot of brands doing. Sometimes the strategy gets a little bit desperate, and desperation doesn't attract new people to want to work with you or become a customer. Very important, okay? Be conscious of that even from the very get-go. Now on Instagram, it's very much, I wouldn't say Instagram is where they are getting most new customers. I think as soon as you become a customer or you're on the fence, that's probably where you're looking. And so they, at this stage, if I had to guess, it's middle of funnel. It's attracting people that are on the fence and getting them to come on our side of the fence and become a paying customer. And you can see first of all, it's very aesthetic, but it attracts a very certain type of person. These are not all product focused, buy this, buy this, buy this now, we're doing this sale, we're having this discount. It's very much like a magazine almost. They are selling through making sure that you are attracted as a very certain type of person to this type of content. And eventually through repetition, through consistency, you will become a customer. And once you're a customer, you see this, it reinforces the message. Your identity is aligned with their identity, and that creates a strong brand customer connection, which is very, very important. Again, best thing for you to do in this situation is literally go onto their Instagram and have a look through their content and see what you can take from some of that stuff. Now, I think this is a very important sort of final thing to go through, which is who they get to represent the brand. Now, they haven't just tried to get the most famous athlete in the world. They have not tried to work with Mo Farah or Usain Bolt. They're not going after people that have the most amount of followers, but instead they are going through and they're working with people that align with who their customer is, who their customer wants to be, who they are as a brand, and they're working with those people based on values, the content that they post, how much of a fit they are with the brand itself, as opposed to any of the other metrics. Okay, this feels like a very much an alignment decision, as opposed to this person gets X amount of traffic, and so they're going to bring X amount or Y amount of customers through the door. You can see here we've got Hercules. I don't know if it's his real name. We've got Hercules here. Probably is, to be fair. The guy looks like a Hercules. You can see his content and the content that they post, it almost looks like the same content because it's aligned, right? We've got people running. It's very aesthetic. The colors are very similar. And they have obviously been very, very intentional about who is representing the brand. This guy has 80,000 followers. I don't want to say only because it's about 80,000 more than I've got, but it's not a major amount for an influencer, right? But ultimately he aligns with the brand and he is helping to solidify that brand image and that ethos, which I think is very, very important. Look, he's not mainstream. He's not polished. Okay, and I think that's important. It's aspirational. It talks to who your customer wants to be. We've got here Will as well. It's very similar. When we look at his content, it's a similar situation, scenario. It's very much a theme across everything that they do. There is consistency. And so if there is one thing, like I say before, that you take away from this video, it's really spend the time to make sure that you have the best product in the market, so a superior product. And then beyond that, which is you don't even get onto this marketing unless you have that. But then second step on that is make sure that you deeply understand your customer and their psychology. And it definitely helps if you are that type of person also. And make sure that everything that you do speaks to that person. If you make a piece of content and you think it's not going to be appreciated by your core customer, that person that you have in your head when you think of who your customer is, don't even post it. The worst thing you can have is a confusing message. It's going to mean nothing to nobody, and that's not profitable. So hopefully you've enjoyed that video. I hope it's useful. Like I say, I will put this link in the description. If you want to book a call with me, if you want to ask me any questions on this or anything about your brand, just drop me a message. I'll also put my calendar link in the description. And until next time, peace.